Commander Lee Daeho stood on the observation deck of Station Alpha 7, watching the stars through the thick glass. His reflection stared back at him, showing a man in his 40s with tired eyes and gray streaks in his black hair. The blue uniform of the Galactic Defense Coalition fit him perfectly, but he still remembered when humans first put on these clothes 20 years ago. Back then, most alien species looked at humans like they were children playing with weapons too big for them. Now things were different, very different. "Commander, the morning briefing is ready," Captain Park So-min said behind him. She was 32 years old and one of the best engineers he had ever worked with. Her small hands could fix any machine, and her quick mind could solve problems that made alien scientists scratch their heads. Daeho turned away from the stars and walked to the briefing room. The corridor was clean and white, filled with the quiet hum of machines keeping them alive in space. Other soldiers nodded as he passed. These were his people, the men and women of the 7th Stellar Guardian Regiment. They came from Earth, but they had made the galaxy their home. The briefing room was full of officers from different species. The tall, blue-skinned Velthari stood next to the short, furry Zelothi. The rock-like granite people sat in special chairs that could hold their weight. At the center of it all were the humans just 200 years into space travel, but somehow leading battles across the galaxy. "Good morning, everyone," Daeho said as he entered. The room fell silent. Even the alien officers showed respect. This was something that still surprised him sometimes. Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin, barely 25 but already famous as a pilot, pointed to the big screen on the wall. "Commander, we got word from 3 different worlds in the past week. They all want human soldiers to help defend them," So-min added. "The Keplerian mining colony says space pirates are getting closer every day. The forest world of Verdania reports strange ships in their outer system. And the Velthari homeworld, they are asking for something bigger." Daeho nodded. This was normal now. When trouble came to any world in the coalition, they called for humans first. Not because humans were the strongest or had the best weapons. The granite people were stronger, and the Velthari had better technology. But humans had something else. "Sergeant Choi Mi-young, tell us about the medical situation," Daeho said. Mi-young was 40 years old and had been a military medic for half her life. She had saved more lives than anyone could count, human and alien both. "Sir, our mobile hospitals are ready to move anywhere we need them. I have also been working with alien doctors to create new medicines that work for all species." This was typical of humans, Daeho thought. Where other species saw differences, humans saw opportunities to learn and help. It had made them valuable, friends across the galaxy. "The Velthari request is special," So-min continued, bringing up new information on the screen. "They are not just asking for protection from pirates or raiders. They have detected something they call the Devourers moving toward their space." The room became very quiet. Everyone had heard stories about the Devourers, but no one had seen them. They were supposed to be creatures that ate entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty rock behind. Most people thought they were just scary stories told to children. Woo-jin looked worried. "Commander, if the Devourers are real, and if they are heading for Velthari space, we might be dealing with something much bigger than normal defense work." Daeho studied the data on the screen. The Velthari were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Their crystal cities and energy technology were things of beauty. If they were scared enough to ask for help, the threat must be serious. "What do our intelligence reports say?" he asked. 3 coalition scouting ships have disappeared near the edge of Velthari space in the past month," So-min replied. "No distress signals, no wreckage found. They just stopped talking." The alien officers in the room looked at each other nervously. The granite people made low rumbling sounds, which meant they were worried. The Zelothi's fur was standing up, a sign of fear. But the humans remained calm and focused. "How many soldiers are they requesting?" Daeho asked. "All of us, sir," Mi-young said quietly. "The entire 7th Regiment. 12,000 soldiers, all our ships, all our equipment." This was unusual. Most missions needed only a few hundred humans. Asking for an entire regiment meant the Velthari were expecting a war. Daeho walked to the window again. Outside, he could see human ships moving in perfect formation with alien vessels. For 20 years, this cooperation had worked well. Humans learned alien technology while aliens learned human tactics. Together, they had created peace across hundreds of worlds. "Sir," Wu Jin said softly, "there is something else." The request came with a promise of full access to Velthari energy technology, the kind of power sources that could change everything for Earth. This made Daeho pause. The Velthari guarded their energy secrets carefully. They had shared small pieces of knowledge before but never offered complete access. If they were willing to give humans their greatest treasures, they must be truly desperate. "When do they need us?" Daeho asked. "As soon as possible, sir. They estimate we have maybe 2 weeks before whatever is coming reaches their homeworld." Daeho looked at his officers, human and alien alike. These people had fought beside each other for years. They had saved each other's lives and shared each other's victories. The galaxy was a safer place because they worked together. "Send word to Earth Command," he decided. "Tell them the 7th Stellar Guardian Regiment accepts the mission. We leave for Velthari space in 3 days." The room filled with activity as officers began making preparations. But Daeho noticed something that bothered him a little. Some of the alien officers seemed less excited about the mission than usual. The Zelothi representative avoided eye contact, and the Granite people left the meeting quickly without their usual friendly conversations. Later, as Daeho walked through the station's residential areas, he saw human families saying goodbye to their soldier relatives. Children hugged their parents, and spouses promised to write letters every day. This was the hardest part of military life, leaving behind the people you loved. He stopped at a communication terminal and sent a message to his daughter back on Earth. Soo-hyun was training to be a ship captain herself, following in her father's footsteps. His message was simple: "Going on a big mission. Take care of yourself. Love, Dad." As he prepared for sleep that night, Daeho looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, an ancient evil was moving toward innocent people. But humans had never run from a fight when others needed help. That was what made them special in the galaxy. Tomorrow they would begin the journey to Velthari space. Tomorrow, the 7th Stellar Guardian Regiment would face whatever was coming. And Daeho was confident that, working together with their alien friends, they could handle anything. He had no way of knowing that this mission would change everything and that some of those alien friends were not as friendly as they seemed. The journey to Velthari space took 5 days. Commander Daeho spent most of that time in meetings with his officers, planning for different types of battles. No one knew exactly what the Devourers were, so they had to prepare for everything. Captain Soman worked with the ship's computers day and night, studying every piece of information about the enemy. "The data is very strange, sir," she told Daeho on the 3rd day. "Some reports say the Devourers are like giant insects. Others describe them as living machines. A few sources claim they are more like a disease that spreads from world to world." Admiral Ryu Tai-woo, commander of Earth's defense fleet, sent daily messages from home. He had been Daeho's teacher years ago when both men were young soldiers. His messages were always encouraging, but Daeho could hear worry in his old mentor's voice. "The politicians on Earth are asking questions about this mission," Admiral Ryu said in one message. "They want to know why we are sending our best regiment so far from home. I told them the same thing I have always told them. Humans keep their promises to their friends." Dr. Yoon Ji-hai, a scientist who studied alien life forms, had joined the EU mission at the last minute. She was excited about the chance to see the Devourers up close. "If these creatures really can consume entire planets," she explained to anyone who would listen, "then understanding them could be the most important discovery in human history." Private Nam Jun-ho spent his time monitoring all the communications between different ships in the fleet. As a communications expert, his job was to make sure everyone could talk to everyone else during the battle. But he was also curious about the messages that were not meant for human ears. When they finally arrived at Velthari space, the beauty of the crystal homeworld took everyone's breath away. The planet looked like a giant jewel floating in space, with cities that sparkled like diamonds under the light of 3 suns. Huge space stations surrounded the world like protective rings, but even from a distance they could see that something was wrong. Parts of the outer ring of space stations were dark. Strange, twisted shapes floated in space where beautiful crystal structures used to be. "Welcome, human friends," came a message from the Velthari command center. The voice sounded tired and scared. "We are grateful you have come. The situation is worse than we feared." The Velthari commander, a being made of living crystal who called himself Bright Edge of Dawn, met with Deho on the main space station. His usually shining surface was dim, and cracks ran through his crystal body like scars. "The Devourers came from the dark spaces between stars," Bright Edge of Dawn explained. "They are not one creature, but millions working together. They consume everything: metal, rock, plants, animals, even the energy from our power sources. What they do not eat, they change into more of themselves." Lieutenant Wu Jin studied the tactical displays. "How fast do they move? How do they attack?" "They come in waves," the Velthari replied. "First, small scout forms that look like metal insects, then larger shapes that can break through our strongest defenses. Finally, the big ones arrive. Some are as large as our cities." Sergeant Mi-young asked the question that worried her most. "What happens to the people they catch?" Bright Edge of Dawn's light grew even dimmer. "They do not kill quickly. They use living beings as material to build new devourers. The process takes days. We can still hear the screams from the outer settlements." The coalition fleet was impressive. Ships from 12 different species floated in formation around the crystal world. The humans were just one part of the force, but everyone seemed to look to them for leadership. "The plan is simple," Dai-Ho explained to his officers later that day. "We establish defensive positions on the planet's surface around the main cities. The fleet will engage the Devourers in space while we protect the civilians below." Everything seemed normal as they prepared for battle. The alien ships worked, together with human vessels just like they had in dozens of previous missions. The Zelothi shared their advanced sensors, the Granite people offered their heavy weapons, and the bird-like skyfolk provided fast scout ships. But Junho was hearing strange things in the communication channels. Late at night, when most people were sleeping, he intercepted messages between alien commanders. They were using codes he was not supposed to understand, but he had studied their languages for years. "The humans are in position," one message said. "All ground forces committed to the surface. Confirm. Evacuation routes are secured." "Confirmed," came the reply. "When Phase 2 begins, all non-human ships will be clear of the combat zone." Junho did not understand what Phase 2 meant, but something about these messages made him feel sick to his stomach. He decided to keep listening. The Devourers arrived on the morning of the 4th day. They came from the darkness beyond the solar system like a black cloud that swallowed stars. The space sensors could barely count them all. Millions upon millions of creatures, from tiny scouts to massive forms that looked like flying mountains. "All ships, prepare for engagement," Deho ordered from his command post on the planet's surface. Above them, the coalition fleet moved to intercept the enemy. The battle in space was like nothing anyone had ever seen. The Devourers did not fight like normal creatures. They flowed through space like water, surrounding ships and tearing them apart with claws and teeth that could cut through the strongest metal. But the coalition fleet was ready for them. Human tactics combined with alien technology created a perfect defense. Zelothi energy beams cut through devourer swarms while Granite people heavy guns smashed the larger creatures. Human pilots flew impossible missions, diving through enemy formations to rescue damaged allied ships. For 6 hours it looked like they might actually win. Then Junho heard the message that changed everything. "This is Coalition Command to all non-human vessels," came the transmission on a secure channel that humans were not supposed to monitor. "Phase 2 is now active. All ships are to withdraw to safe distance immediately." "What about the human forces?" asked one ship captain. "The humans have served their purpose," came the cold reply. "They will hold the Devourer's attention while we complete the evacuation. This was always the plan." Junho's hands shook as he recorded the transmission. He ran through the command center, looking for Commander Daeho. Sir, you need to... Hear this, Junho shouted over the noise of battle communications, but it was too late. Outside, they could see the coalition ships moving away from the planet, not retreating from the Devourers but abandoning the battlefield entirely. What are they doing? Captain So-min asked, staring at the tactical display. The battle is not over. We are winning. Daeho tried to contact the fleet commanders. Coalition. Command, this is Guardian Base. Why are you withdrawing? We need support to complete the mission. The reply came from Bright Edge of Dawn himself, but his voice was different now. Colder. Commander Daeho, the Coalition Council has decided that this battle cannot be won. We must save what we can. You are abandoning us? Daeho could not believe what he was hearing. You humans always talk about sacrifice for the greater good, the Velthari replied. Today you get to prove you mean it. One by one, the alien ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving the human forces alone on the planet with millions of Devourers closing in from all directions. Junho played the recorded messages for everyone to hear. The truth was clear and terrible. This had never been a rescue mission. This had been a trap. They planned this from the beginning, So-min said quietly. They sent us here to die. Lieutenant Wu Jin was checking his instruments frantically. Sir, they also destroyed our ships. Every transport, every fighter, every supply vessel. We have no way off this planet. 12,000 human soldiers, the best Earth had to offer, were stranded on a dying world with an enemy that ate planets for breakfast. Daeho looked at his officers. These people had trusted him to lead them safely through another mission. Now he had led them into the greatest betrayal in human history. Signal Earth, he ordered. Tell Admiral Ryu what happened here. Make sure our families know the truth. But even as he gave the order, he wondered if the message would ever reach home. The Devourers were everywhere now, and the Coalition had made sure that no human voice would escape this world. The galaxy had decided that humans were too dangerous to live. Now they would see what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose. The first thing Commander Daeho did after the betrayal was gather his officers. They met in what used to be a Velthari command center, now abandoned like everything else on the Crystal World. Through the transparent walls they could see the Devourers moving across the landscape like a dark flood. How many soldiers do we have? Daeho asked. Master Sergeant Oh Hyun-woo, a man who had survived in hostile places for 20 years, checked his reports. 11,843, sir. We lost some people when our ships were destroyed, but most of the regiment made it to the surface. Lieutenant Colonel An Suji, who specialized in keeping soldiers' spirits strong during hard times, looked worried. Sir, the men are asking questions. They want to know why our allies left us here. Tell them the truth, Daeho decided. They deserve to know. But also tell them this. We are still soldiers. We still have a job to do. These people, he pointed toward the Velthari civilians hiding in the underground shelters, are counting on us to protect them. Private Junho was still trying to contact Earth, but the Devourers had some kind of technology that blocked most communications. Sir, I am getting small signals through, but not enough to send a full message. The creatures seem to absorb radio waves. Captain So-min had been studying the abandoned Velthari equipment. The good news is that they left behind a lot of useful technology. Energy weapons, force field generators, even some of their construction machines. The bad news is that most of it requires crystal-based power sources, and the Devourers seem to eat those first. Sergeant Mi Young had set up a medical station in one of the underground areas. I have been examining some of the remains left behind by the Devourers. There is something strange about how they work. She showed them pieces of what used to be Velthari soldiers. But instead of just bones, there were metal parts and organic material mixed together. They do not just eat their victims, they change them into something else, something that serves the Devourers. This was worse than anyone had imagined. Not only were they fighting an enemy that consumed planets, but every person who died might become another enemy soldier. Lieutenant Wu Jin had been scouting the area around their position. "Sir, I count at least 50,000 devourers in the immediate area, and more arriving every hour. They seem to be focusing on the largest crystal structures first." "That gives us some time," Daeho decided. "If they are more interested in eating buildings than hunting us, we can use that. Hyunwoo, I want defensive positions established around the civilian shelters. Use whatever materials you can find." Over the next 3 days, the humans did what they did best. They adapted. Using Velthari construction equipment, they built walls and barriers around the underground shelters. So-min figured out how to power human weapons with crystal energy sources. Mi-young set up field hospitals that could treat both human and Velthari wounded. The Devourers were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. The small ones, about the size of dogs, moved in groups and seemed to share one mind. They would attack from one direction, and when the humans concentrated their fire there, more would appear from completely different angles. The medium-sized Devourers were worse. They looked like metal spiders the size of trucks, with claws that could cut through stone and teeth that could bite through steel armor. But the worst part was that they seemed to learn from every battle. Tactics that worked once never worked again. "They are not just animals," Dr. Jihai observed after studying them for several days. "They have some kind of collective intelligence. Every individual creature shares information with all the others. But the humans were learning too." Wu Jin discovered that the Devourers had trouble with sudden changes in direction, so he trained his pilots to fly in erratic patterns. Mi-young found that certain human medicines seemed to slow down the conversion process when someone was infected. And Hyunwoo learned that the creatures avoided areas with very loud noises. "We are not trying to win this war," Daeho explained to his soldiers during one of their daily meetings. "We are trying to survive long enough for Earth to find us. Every day we stay alive is another day for Admiral Ryu to figure out what happened and send help." But privately, Daeho wondered if help would ever come. Even if Junho managed to get a message through, Earth was very far away. It would take weeks for any rescue fleet to reach them, and they were losing people every day. The worst losses came from the night attacks. The Devourers seemed to prefer fighting in darkness, when their black bodies were hard to see. They would send small groups to probe the defenses, looking for weak spots. Then, just before dawn, they would attack in force. After 2 weeks, they had lost almost 3,000 soldiers. "Sir," Suji reported during one morning briefing, "morale is starting to break down. Some of the men are talking about surrendering." "Surrendering to what?" So-min asked angrily. "Those things do not take prisoners, they eat people." "I know that," Suji replied. "But when people are scared and tired, they do not always think clearly." Daeho understood. These soldiers had signed up to protect Earth and its allies. They had expected to fight honorable battles against pirates or hostile governments. No one had prepared them to be abandoned by their friends and left to die on a planet being consumed by monsters. Double the watch rotations, he decided. Make sure no one is alone for too long, and increase the food rations. People need to feel like we are not giving up. The Velthari civilians were not much help in the fighting, but they knew their world better than the humans did. Bright Edge of Dawn had disappeared with the rest of the coalition fleet, but other crystal beings remained behind. They showed the humans hidden passages between buildings and warned them about areas where the ground was unstable. "Your people fight with great courage," one elderly Velthari said to Daeho. His crystal body was cracked and dim, showing his great age. "In all our long history, we have never seen soldiers who would die for strangers." "We are not dying for strangers," Daeho replied. "We are fighting for our friends, that is what humans do." But even as he said it, he wondered how long they could keep fighting. The Devourers seemed endless. For every one they killed, 2 more appeared. And the large ones, the creatures as big as buildings, had not even arrived yet. Junho finally managed to send a partial message to Earth on the 20th day. It was only a few words. "Betrayed, stranded, Velthari world, send help." But it was something. "Do you think they will come?" Wu Jin asked that night as they watched the Devourers moving through the ruins of the Crystal City. Daeho thought about Admiral Ryu, about his daughter Soo-hyun, about all the people back on Earth who were probably wondering why the 7th Regiment had stopped sending regular reports. They will come, he said with more confidence than he felt. Earth does not abandon its own. 3 days later, the really big Devourers finally arrived. They came from the sky like falling mountains, creatures so large that their shadows covered entire city blocks. When they landed, the ground shook like an earthquake. These things were not just predators. They were living siege engines designed to tear apart the strongest defenses. New plan, Daeho announced as his remaining 8,000 soldiers prepared for what might be their final battle. We are not just trying to survive anymore. We are going to hurt these things so badly that when Earth comes looking for us, they will find a pile of dead monsters and know that humans were here. The soldiers cheered, but Daeho could see the fear in their eyes. They all knew that the odds were against them. They all knew that most of them would not live to see Earth again. But they were humans, and humans did not surrender. Even when the stars themselves turned against them, even when their friends betrayed them, even when facing an enemy that ate worlds for breakfast, they would fight until the last bullet was fired and the last breath was taken. That was what made them human. Admiral Ryu Taiwu was drinking coffee in his office on Luna Station when the partial message arrived from the Velthari system. The few words made him drop his cup, sending hot liquid splashing across his desk. Betrayed. Stranded. Velthari. World, send help. He read the message 3 times before calling for his assistant. Get me a direct line to Earth Command immediately, and find out why we have not received any official reports from the 7th Regiment in over 3 weeks. The answer came back within an hour, and it made Admiral Ryu's blood run cold. According to Coalition records, the 7th Stellar Guardian Regiment had been heroically lost defending the Velthari homeworld against the Devourers. All ships destroyed, all personnel presumed dead. A memorial service was already being planned. Sir, his communication officer said nervously, Earth Command is asking why you are requesting information about a closed mission. They say the Coalition has already filed all necessary reports. Admiral Ryu stood up and walked to the window overlooking Earth. His home planet looked peaceful from space, blue and white and beautiful, but he knew that if the Coalition was lying about the 7th Regiment, then everything humans had built in space was in danger. Send a message to my daughter, he ordered. Tell Captain Lee Soo-hyun to report to Luna Station immediately, and get me Chief Engineer Kang Do-young. We need to talk. Captain Soo-hyun arrived 2 days later, commanding the newest ship in Earth's fleet. The Soul's Fury was an experimental vessel, built with human engineering and powered by fusion reactors that Earth had developed in secret. She was fast, heavily armed, and designed for exactly the kind of mission Admiral Ryu was planning. Dad, what is this about? Soo-hyun asked as she entered his office. She was 30 years old with her father's determined eyes and her grandfather's stubborn chin. I was told to bring my ship and my best crew, but no one will tell me why. Admiral Ryu played the recorded message for her. Then he showed her the official reports claiming that her father and 11,000 other soldiers were dead. Soo-hyun was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was very calm and very dangerous. Someone is lying. My father would never let his entire regiment get wiped out without sending at least one detailed report. And Junho is the best communications specialist in the fleet. If he sent that message, then they are alive and they need help. Chief Engineer Do-young arrived that afternoon with blueprints for ships that did not officially exist. He was a small, quiet man who had spent the last 10 years designing weapons that Earth hoped it would never need to use. These are the Vengeance class warships, he explained, spreading the plans across Admiral Ryu's desk. We started building them after the Kepler incident 3 years ago, when the Zolothi accidentally fired on our trade ships. They are designed to fight coalition vessels. If necessary, Admiral Ryu studied the designs. These ships were not built for exploration or defense. They were built for war. How many do we have? 50 completed, with another 100 under construction in the hidden shipyards around Jupiter. But sir, If we use these ships against coalition forces, it means war with half the galaxy. The galaxy has already declared war on us, Admiral Ryu replied grimly. They just forgot to tell us about it. That night, Admiral Ryu sent a coded message to every human ship captain, every planetary governor, and every military commander in Earth space. The message was simple. Come home. Now. Bring everyone. Within a week, every human in the galaxy was either on Earth or heading there at maximum speed. Trade missions were abandoned, diplomatic posts were evacuated, and exploration, ships turned around in the middle of their journeys. The coalition noticed, of course. Alien ambassadors demanded explanations. Coalition leaders sent messages asking why Earth was recalling all its citizens without warning. Admiral Ryu's reply was broadcast on every frequency in known space. Earth has discovered that our soldiers were betrayed and abandoned to die by those we trusted as friends. We are bringing our people home to decide what to do about it. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. Some coalition species tried to claim ignorance, saying they knew nothing about any betrayal. Others blamed the Velthari for the misunderstanding. A few, like the Granite people, sent private messages expressing regret and asking for forgiveness. But the damage was done. For the first time in 20 years, Earth was no longer part of the galactic community. Meanwhile, Junho's partial messages continued to arrive every few days. Each one contained a little more information. Still fighting, thousands dead, big ones coming, Earth remember us. Dr. Ji-Hai, who had been part of the 7th Regiment, managed to send scientific data about the Devourers. The information was incomplete and often corrupted, but it was enough for Earth scientists to begin understanding what their soldiers were fighting. The Devourers are not a natural species, Earth's top xenobiologist reported to Admiral Ryu. They appear to be artificial, possibly created as weapons by some long-dead civilization. They consume matter and energy to reproduce, but they also seem to be following some kind of programming. Programming for what? Soo-hyun asked. Complete destruction of all other life forms. They are not just predators, Admiral. They are a galactic cleansing system. This made the Coalition's betrayal even worse. They had not just abandoned human soldiers to die. They had used humans as bait to distract a threat that could destroy the entire galaxy. Admiral Ryu made his decision on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 month after the first partial message arrived. He called together the leaders of Earth's government and military in the largest conference room on Luna Station. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, for 20 years, we have been good galactic citizens. We have followed coalition laws, we have shared our discoveries, and we have bled and died defending worlds that were not our own. In return, we have been betrayed in the worst possible way. He activated the main display showing tactical information about coalition fleet positions and defensive installations. But we are not helpless victims. While we were learning to work with our alien friends, we were also learning their weaknesses. We know how their ships work, how their governments function, and how their militaries think. And we have been preparing for this day longer than they realize. The room was silent as Admiral Ryu outlined Operation Remembrance. It was not just a rescue mission. It was a complete restructuring of humanity's place in the galaxy. We are going to save our people, he concluded. And then we are going to make sure that no one ever betrays humanity again. Captain Soo-hyun raised her hand. Sir, what about the coalition species that had nothing to do with the betrayal? The ones who are asking for forgiveness? Admiral Ryu's expression softened slightly. We will judge each species by their actions, not their words. Those who help us rescue our soldiers will be remembered as friends. Those who stand in our way will be remembered as enemies. The Soul's Fury launched. 2 days later, leading a fleet of 50 Vengeance-class warships and 200 smaller vessels. They carried 15,000 Marines, the best equipment Earth could build, and a message for the galaxy. Earth was coming, and hell was coming with them. As they entered faster-than-light travel toward the Velthari system, Admiral Ryu recorded, one final transmission. To the survivors of the 7th Stellar Guardian Regiment, this is Admiral Ryu Tae-woo commanding the Earth Rescue Fleet. We received your message. We know what happened. We are coming to bring you home." He paused, thinking about Commander Deho and all the soldiers who had trusted him to keep them safe. "Hold on just a little longer. Earth remembers its own." Commander Deho heard the explosions in space before he saw the ships. After 6 weeks of fighting devourers with nothing but ground-based weapons, the sound of ship-to-ship combat was like music. "Sir, sir." Private Junho came running through the underground tunnels, his communication equipment sparking with activity. "I am getting signals from human ships, Earth ships. They are fighting the devourers in orbit." Of the 12,000 soldiers who had come to the Velthari world, only 800 were still alive. They were dirty, exhausted, and running low on everything except determination. But when they heard that Earth had come for them, they cheered, like they had already won the war. Captain So-min, her left arm in a sling from a devourer claw wound, looked up from the weapon she was repairing. "How many ships?" "I count over 200 vessels," Junho reported, his voice shaking with excitement. "And sir, one of them is broadcasting on Admiral Ryu's personal frequency." Deho felt tears running down his face, though he tried to hide them from his soldiers. After weeks of believing they would die forgotten on an alien world, Earth had not abandoned them. The battle in space was unlike anything the Devourers had faced before. The coalition ships that had abandoned the humans were designed for cooperation and defense, but the Earth ships that arrived were built for war. The Vengeance-class warships tore through Devourer swarms with weapons that turned the creatures into glowing plasma. Captain Soo-hyun commanded the Soul's Fury from the center of the battle, her ship dancing between massive Devourers while her gunners targeted their weak points. "All ships, priority target is the surface," she commanded. "Our people are down there, and we are bringing them home." The Devourers tried to adapt to the human tactics, just as they had adapted to everything else. But Earth's ships were using technology the creatures had never encountered. Fusion beams that could cut through anything, gravity weapons that crushed enemies into tiny balls, and something new called quantum torpedoes that seemed to erase Devourers from existence. On the ground, Deho's remaining soldiers fought their way to the surface for the first time in weeks. The sky was full of explosions and energy beams as Earth ships cleared landing zones for rescue shuttles. Sergeant Mi-young had tears streaming down her face as she helped wounded soldiers toward the evacuation points. "I never thought I would see home again," she whispered to Lieutenant Woo-jin. "We are not home yet," Woo-jin replied, but he was smiling for the first time in months. His fighter squadron had been destroyed weeks ago, but he had continued fighting on foot with the infantry. Now he could see Earth ships landing to pick them up. The reunion between Deho and his daughter was broadcast across the entire Earth fleet. Soo-hyun jumped out of her shuttle before it had fully landed and ran to embrace her father. "I told you Earth remembers its own," she said, holding him tightly. "You should not have come," Deho replied, though his voice was full of love and gratitude. "This place is too dangerous." "Dangerous?" Soo-hyun laughed, gesturing at the human warships systematically destroying every devourer in the system. "Dad, we brought the entire Earth defense fleet, and we are not just here to rescue you. We are here to send a message." That message became clear over the next few hours. Earth ships did not just evacuate the survivors of the 7th Regiment. They also evacuated every Velthari civilian who wanted to leave their dying world. Transport ships carried crystal beings to safety, while warships continued hunting down devourers. But the most important message was delivered when coalition ships arrived to investigate the situation. 3 alien fleets, led by the same species, that had betrayed the human soldiers, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Admiral Ryu, commanding the Earth fleet from his flagship, opened communications with the coalition commanders. "This is Admiral Ryu Tae-woo of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to leave this system immediately." "Admiral Ryu," came the reply from a Zealothi commander. "We are here to assist with the Devourer threat. Surely we can work together as we always have." "Work together?" Admiral Ryu's voice was ice cold. "The way you worked together when you abandoned my soldiers to die? The way you worked together when you destroyed their ships and left them stranded?" There seems to be some misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, Admiral Ryu interrupted. We have recordings of your communications. We know this was planned from the beginning. You used human soldiers as bait, and then you left them to be eaten by monsters. The coalition fleets began to move into battle formation, but they were too late. Earth ships were already surrounding them, weapons charged and targeting systems locked on. You have one chance to avoid a war, Admiral Ryu announced. Leave this system now and never threaten human forces again. Or stay and learn why Earth spent 20 years building ships you have never seen before. The alien commanders realized too late that humanity had been preparing for this possibility for years. While human soldiers were dying for coalition worlds, human engineers were designing weapons to fight coalition fleets. Some of the alien ships tried to fight. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. Others tried to run. Earth ships were faster. When it was over, Admiral Ryu sent a message to every coalition world. Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Defense Coalition, effective immediately. Any species that wishes to maintain peaceful relations with humanity may do so through direct negotiation. Any species that threatens human civilians or military forces will be considered hostile. The rescued soldiers were brought aboard Earth hospital ships where they received the best medical care humanity could provide. But even as their physical wounds healed, the emotional scars remained. Dr. Jihai had managed to survive the entire ordeal, and her research data about the Devourers proved invaluable. These creatures are not gone, she warned Admiral Ryu. We destroyed the ones that came to this system, but there are more out there, maybe millions more. Then we will be ready for them, Admiral Ryu replied. And this time, we will not rely on alien friends who might betray us. The surviving Velthari were grateful to the humans who had risked everything to save them. Bright Edge of Dawn, who had fled with the coalition fleet, was declared a traitor by his own people. The crystal beings who remained chose to become humanity's first true alien allies. Your people fought and died for us when our own leaders abandoned us, said the new Velthari leader, a young crystal being called Sharp Light of Truth. We will not forget this debt. 10 years later, the memorial on Earth was visited by millions of people every year. The black stone wall contained the names of 11,200 soldiers who had died defending an alien world they had never seen before. Above the names, carved in letters of gold, were the words, "Abandoned by the stars, remembered by Earth." Commander Deho, now retired, often came to the memorial with his grandchildren. He would tell them stories about the brave soldiers who had fought impossible odds, and about the day Earth came to bring them home. "Were you scared, Grandpa?" his youngest granddaughter asked during one visit. Deho thought for a moment before answering. Yes, I was scared, but I was never afraid that Earth would forget us. I knew that somewhere out there good people were working to bring us home. The Stellar Guardian Academy, built on the site where the 7th Regiment had trained, welcomed its newest class of cadets every year. They came from Earth, from the Velthari Crystal Cities, and from dozens of other worlds that had joined the Terran Alliance. During the graduation ceremony, each new Guardian recited the oath that had been written by the survivors of the Velthari. Mission: we are the sword of Earth, the shield of humanity, and the promise that no human dies alone among the stars. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity could be the best friend you ever had, or the worst enemy you ever faced. The choice was yours. But if you chose to betray them, if you chose to abandon their soldiers and leave them to die, then you would discover what humans were really capable of when they had nothing left to lose. Earth remembered. Earth always remembered. And Earth never forgave.